Assalamu alaikum. Today we will start from your mathematics book a new chapter titled Trigonometry. This word is derived from three Greek words: tri, gono, and metron. Tri means three, gono means sides, metron means measurement. Therefore, the word trigonometry means measurement of sides of a three-sided polygon called triangle. Before defining trigonometry, just to refresh your minds, we have triangles of 6 types. Three on the basis of sides, and 3 on the basis of angles. You have read in the previous classes the triangles on the basis of sides are scalene triangles, isosceles triangles, and equilateral triangles. Whereas the different triangles on the basis of angles are acute angled triangle, right angled triangle, and obtuse angled triangle. In this chapter, we will be particularly using the right triangle. You know, the triangle is called a right triangle if the measurement of one of its angles is 90 degrees. Such a triangle which has one angle equal to 90 degrees is called a right triangle. The shape of the right triangle is this. This triangle has two remaining angles as acute angles, with sum equal to 90 degrees. And you know, such pair of angles which have sum equal to 90 degrees are called complementary angles. Thus, the two acute angles of the right triangle are complementary angles. The three sides of a right triangle have got their special names. The names of the sides are hypotenuse, base, and perpendicular. Out of these, the first one, hypotenuse, is the side opposite to right angle. Opposite to right angle. If we name this triangle as ABC, then the side opposite to its right angle is AC. Therefore, AC is the hypotenuse of this right triangle. The remaining two sides are called base and perpendicular. The identification of base and perpendicular, which side of the remaining two will be called base and perpendicular, depends on the acute angle. Depends on acute angle. Therefore, to decide which of the remaining sides will be called base and which will be called perpendicular, you have to choose one of the acute angles. We find the two acute angles here are angle A and angle C. You have to choose one of these, and on the basis of that acute angle, you can decide which will be called as base and which will be called as perpendicular. Well, to understand this, let us choose acute angle C. Let us choose acute angle C. Well, all of you know the arms of acute angle, the arms of angle C here in the figure are BC and AC. BC and AC. These are the arms of the acute angle C that we have chosen out of the two acute angles of this right triangle. Then, out of these, we have already seen AC is the hypotenuse. AC is the hypotenuse. We have already seen. It is the side opposite to the right angle in the right triangle. It is AC here. The second side involved in the form of arms of this angle is then called as base. This is called also as the adjacent side. Adjacent side of what? Adjacent side of acute angle. So we have seen which side we call as hypotenuse, the side opposite to right angle in the right triangle, and the adjacent side of the acute angle is called as the base. The third side, which is left, is called as perpendicular. Third side of right triangle is called perpendicular. It is also called as opposite side of acute angle. Now, if instead of angle C, we choose angle A as the acute angle, then the base and perpendicular in this right triangle will change. The hypotenuse will not change here because there is only one right angle. Opposite side of right angle is called hypotenuse. Therefore, hypotenuse will not change. But with the change in the acute angle, what will change? Yes, the base and perpendicular will change. Because now the adjacent side of the acute angle and the opposite side will change. This time, what are the arms of this angle A? Yes, the arms are AB and AC. Out of these, AC is again the hypotenuse. AC being the side opposite to 90 degree in the triangle, it is the hypotenuse. And then which side is left here? It is AB, and this AB then will be called as the base, being the adjacent side of acute angle. Whereas BC will then become the perpendicular, being the third side of the right triangle. So remember, therefore, with the change in the acute angle of the right triangle, the base and the perpendicular will always change. Instead of ABC right triangle, if we choose in a different way another right triangle PQR, right angled at P, then can you identify the acute angles involved in this right triangle? These are angle Q and angle R. Angle Q and angle R. Let us find out, with respect to these acute angles, which sides in the right triangle will be base and perpendicular. Well, hypotenuse in this case will be QR. The side opposite to right angle is the hypotenuse. Let us first choose angle Q as the acute angle. And now, to find which side with respect to angle Q will be the base and the perpendicular, you have to first find the arms of this angle Q. Angle Q, arms of this angle are PQ and QR. Out of these, QR being the hypotenuse, the side PQ will then be the base with respect to angle Q. The third side PR will be the perpendicular with respect to angle Q. But with respect to angle R, let us find the perpendicular, the base and the hypotenuse. Let us find what are the arms of angle R. PR and QR are the arms of this angle. And out of these again, QR is the hypotenuse. Then PR will be the base. And the third side, PQ, will be the perpendicular. Having introduced this, we now come to the definition part of trigonometry. Trigonometry is defined as the branch of mathematics which deals with relationships between sides and angles of a triangle. Well, as I already said, we'll be restricted here to right triangle only. Introduction of the remaining types of triangles you will come across in higher classes. These relationships between sides and angles of a triangle are expressed in the form of ratios called trigonometric ratios. There are 6 trigonometric ratios. Number 1, sine. Number 2, cosine. Number 3, tangent. Number 4, cotangent. Number 5, secant. And number 6, cosecant. The words you can observe, you can see from here, each next word consists of previous word with co as prefix. Sine, when co prefix is added, becomes cosine. Tangent, when co prefix is added, becomes cotangent. Secant, when co prefix is added, becomes cosecant. Short forms of these are sine word we write as sin. The word in English we pronounce as sin. But in trigonometry we read it as sine. Cosine is written as cos, tangent as tan, cotangent as cot, secant as sec, cosecant as cosec. Well, these short forms are meaningless. They mean nothing unless the acute angle is not associated with it. For example, A is an acute angle, then sine, meaningful representation will be sine A. Sine alone, sin alone does not have any meaning. It is an English word. To make it a trigonometric ratio, you have to associate some acute angle with it. So it is sine A. Likewise, we have cos A, tan A, cot A, sec A, and cosec A. If instead of acute angle A, we use acute angle B, or for that matter any acute angle, then accordingly it will mean sine B, cos B, tan B, cot B, sec B, and cosec B. Well, remember, when we write sine A, this, like algebraic expressions, does not mean the product of S, I, N, and A. Or cos A does not mean the product of C, O, S, and A. Like in algebra, we write X, Y. It means the product of X and Y. In trigonometry, this does not mean the product of the alphabets involved. It is the shorthand representation of sine of acute angle A. Likewise, this is the shorthand representation of cosine of acute angle A. It is not the product of C, O, S, and A. It is the shorthand representation of cosine of acute angle A. Likewise, this is the shorthand representation of tangent of acute angle A, cotangent of acute angle A, secant of acute angle A, and cosecant of acute angle A. Now the definitions of each of these trigonometric ratios will be in the form of ratios of sides of right triangle. Sine A is defined as the ratio of perpendicular and hypotenuse. With respect to acute angle A. It is the ratio of perpendicular and hypotenuse with respect to acute angle A. This is the definition of sine A. Therefore, sine A is written as sine A is equal to perpendicular by hypotenuse. Likewise, definition of cos A is ratio of base and hypotenuse with respect to acute angle A. Now why we write here with respect to acute angle A? Because we have associated acute angle A with the trigonometric ratio. Therefore, cos A is written as base divided by hypotenuse. The third trigonometric ratio, tan A, is defined as ratio of perpendicular and base with respect to acute angle A. write it as tan A is equal to perpendicular by base. To remember these three definitions of sine, cos and tan with respect to some acute angle, we use a statement. You will have to remember this, note it down. Some people have curly black hair to present beauty. The statement consists of 9 words. And you can see I have written first alphabet of each word capital. S is capital here, P is capital here, H is capital, C, B, H, T, P, B. Because these words, first alphabet of each word, will help us to remember the definitions of the trigonometric ratios. This statement is divided into 3 parts, each part consisting of 3 words. You can see the first part consists of the 3 words some people have. Second part consists of 3 words curly, black and hair. Third part consists of 3 words to present beauty. In each group, the first alphabet of the first word represents trigonometric ratio. So S represents trigonometric ratio, C represents trigonometric ratio, T also represents trigonometric ratio. By S we therefore mean sine, by C we mean cos, by T we mean tan. 3 trigonometric ratios, the 3 definitions which we have just now discussed, those 3 are represented by these 3 words. The remaining 2 words in each group represent the sides of the right triangle. Represent the sides of the right triangle. With first word of first alphabet of first word representing the numerator of the ratio, and the second and the first word of the second word represents the denominator of the ratio. And we know out of the 3 sides of the right triangle, the side perpendicular begins with P, whereas the side hypotenuse begins with H. Perpendicular therefore will be the numerator in case of first trigonometric ratio sine, whereas the side hypotenuse will be the denominator of the trigonometric ratio sine. Therefore, sine of acute angle A is perpendicular divided by hypotenuse. Sine from sum, the first alphabet S, perpendicular from people, the first alphabet P, and hypotenuse from have, the first alphabet H. Sine of acute angle A is perpendicular by hypotenuse. Likewise, in the second group, the first alphabet C represents the trigonometric ratio cosine. The first alphabet B of the word black represents base. B being the first alphabet in the word base, it is also the first alphabet in the word black. H represents hypotenuse. Therefore, cos of acute angle A is defined as base by hypotenuse. And then the third definition from the third group will give us tangent of acute angle A is equal to, T for tangent is equal to perpendicular. First alphabet P refers to perpendicular. So it is perpendicular divided by B refers to base. Well, having understood how these three trigonometric ratios are defined by using the statement given here, the remaining three trigonometric ratios are defined in the form of reciprocals of these three. The remaining three trigonometric ratios are cot, sec, and cosec. Out of these, cot is defined as the reciprocal of tan. Sec is defined as the reciprocal of cos. And cosec is defined as reciprocal of sine. Cot is the reciprocal of tan. Sec is the reciprocal of cos. Cosec is the reciprocal of sine. Well, knowing that sine is perpendicular by hypotenuse, therefore cosec will become the reciprocal of sine, means it will be hypotenuse by perpendicular. It is the reciprocal of sine. Likewise, cos is defined as base by hypotenuse, and the reciprocal of base by hypotenuse will be hypotenuse by base. This will give us the definition of sec. Sec is defined as the reciprocal of cos. Thus, the definition of sec will be, what is the reciprocal of cos? It is hypotenuse by base. And finally, tan being defined as perpendicular by base, its reciprocal will be base by perpendicular, which gives us the definition of cot. Thus, cot is defined as base by perpendicular. In this way, we defined the 6 trigonometric ratios. Going through these definitions again, sine we define as perpendicular by hypotenuse, cos we define as base by hypotenuse, tan we define as perpendicular by base, cot we define as base by perpendicular, sec we define as hypotenuse by base, whereas cosec we define as hypotenuse by perpendicular. Now let us apply these definitions in case of a right triangle. Let us choose a right triangle ABC, right angled at B, and let us choose its acute angle A. Now, as discussed earlier, with respect to acute angle A, AB will be the base. It is the adjacent side of the acute angle chosen. Angle A has two arms, AB and AC. Out of these, AC is the hypotenuse, being opposite to the right angle. The second arm of the acute angle that we have chosen is called as base. And the third side, BC, is the perpendicular. Therefore, sine of acute angle A will be, definition says it is perpendicular by hypotenuse. The perpendicular here is BC divided by hypotenuse is AC. Thus, in this right triangle, ABC, right angle at B, with A as acute angle, sine A is BC by AC. Cos A is equal to, cos is defined as base by hypotenuse, and the base here is AB divided by AC is the hypotenuse. Tan A will therefore become, it is defined as perpendicular by base. Find out what is the perpendicular, what is the base. BC is the perpendicular, AB is the base, so it will be BC by AB. Cot A is the reciprocal of tan. It is therefore base by perpendicular. Tan is perpendicular by base, reciprocal will be cot, base by perpendicular, thus it is AB by BC. Sec A, sec being the reciprocal of cos, cos is AB by AC, and the reciprocal will become sec, which will be AC by AB. Cosec A will be reciprocal of sine. Sine is BC by AC. Reciprocal of BC by AC is AC by BC. And therefore, cosec A will be AC by BC. This is how definition is applied to a particular triangle. Now, instead of angle A, if we choose angle C, then it will be written as sine C, cos C, tan C, cot C, sec C, cosec C. Sine C will then be ratio of, now you have to use C as acute angle. With respect to C, BC now will no longer be perpendicular. It will now be the base. Similarly, AB no longer will now be the base. It will be now the perpendicular. And when applying these, sine now will become, sine C will become perpendicular by hypotenuse, means AB by AC. Perpendicular by base. Cos C will become base by hypotenuse. BC is now the base, by hypotenuse is AC. Tan C will become perpendicular by base. Perpendicular is AB, by base is BC. The remaining three are the reciprocals. Cot C, BC by AB, reciprocal of tan, sec C, reciprocal of cos, AC by BC, cosec C, reciprocal of sine, AC by AB. These 6 trigonometric ratios you have to memorize, and we'll be applying these definitions of trigonometric ratios in the chapter that will follow, in the exercises that will follow. The first exercise will be purely based on these definitions. Unless you know these definitions, you will not be able to understand the questions. Therefore, today I would like to conclude with this. Put these definitions to memory so that In the next lecture, we will begin the exercise. That is all for this day.